Hello, kind and gentle people. Let us get acquainted with another mystery from Bulgaria. The tomb of Bastet in Strandzha is perhaps the most mystical mountain in Bulgaria. One of the most captivating legends associated with Strandzha is that of the tomb of the Egyptian goddess Bastet. Legends whisper that at the foot of the highest peak in the Bulgarian part of Strandzha, Gradishte, there is a pyramid. Inside it lies buried the cat-headed goddess Bastet. Mystics claim that the tomb was built in the 8th century BC and was covered with tons of earth and rock fragments to conceal it. The thousands of slaves who built the sanctuary of the deity were slaughtered to the last one, so that they would not spread the sacred secret. In Bastet's sarcophagus are locked immense knowledge about the earth, the cosmos, and the origin of humanity. Who is Bastet, the cat-headed goddess Bastet? She is not an Egyptian queen, as many believe, but a goddess, a semi-deified figure whose father had Thracian roots and whose mother was of Judean origin, says Grigor Popov from the tourism department of the municipality of Malko Tarnovo. In this region long ago ruled the Thracian ruler Cleomatra. Her right-hand man was Bastet's father. During Cleomastra's reign, a decision was made for a migration toward Egypt. The Thracians, besides being exceptional warriors, were also good traders and traded actively with Egypt. During the journey, somewhere in the Aegean Sea, Cleomatra died. Her people buried her and refused to continue in the direction they had set out or to return back until a new leader was chosen. Bastet's father, the second in command after the ruler, was chosen as king and leader. Thus his children, including Bastet, received the status of princes and princesses. They reached Egypt and settled along the Nile. From there comes the notion that Bastet was an Egyptian queen or princess. In Egypt, pharaohs were mainly men, while women were several levels below, but they could become high priestesses of certain religious movements. Bastet was chosen as a supreme priestess of such a movement, one that worshipped cats, sacred animals in Egypt. From there comes the misconception that she herself was the deity, whereas in fact she was the mediator, the connection between the earthly and the divine, the main representative. With a cat's head, characteristic of the followers of this movement, was that they presented themselves in society wearing cat masks on their faces. For this reason, in most places believed to be connected with Bastet, or the movement of which she was a supreme priestess in Egypt, there are cat figures and symbols, explains Grigor Popov. One day, Bastet felt that her end was approaching. She told her father that her death was near and asked to be buried where she was born, in Strandzha. He agreed, and Bastet addressed her people. Those who wished could remain in their new settlements in Egypt, while the rest could accompany her back to Strandzha because of the great respect they had for Bastet. Most of the settlers, about 300 people, set out back and carried her body to Strandzha. They traveled the entire way by land and water, but upon returning to Strandzha, they began fighting with other tribes that had meanwhile settled in those territories. Bastet's people won and built her tomb. The tomb of Bastet. A treasure hunter learned of Bastet's tomb, and later so did Lyudmila Zhivkova. In the late 1970s, an ancient map of Bastet's tomb, drawn on leather, fell into the hands of a treasure hunter who for 203 years searched for the described place in Strandzha. Eventually, exhausted by futile efforts, he decided to go and share everything he knew with the authorities. He told them where he had been, what assumptions he had, and what he had been looking for, showed them the documents. But they dismissed him with ridicule and warned him that if he continued digging in the mountain, he would be arrested. The case reached the higher levels in Sofia. Gradishte Peak and Lyudmila Zhivkova learned about it. A historian, art expert, and head of state cultural policy, the daughter of then state leader Todor Zhivkov, was at that time chair of the Committee for Culture. Gradishte Peak headed the Cultural Heritage Department in the committee. The family of the state leader tasked him with trying at all costs to return 60–70% of the artifacts and findings taken abroad. Mutovchev was close to Lyudmila Zhivkova and her advisor. When the story reached the state, when the story of the treasure hunter reached Mutovchev and Zhivkova, it was ordered that he be detained and questioned. They tried to find the tomb using his map, but without success. They then decided to visit the prophetess Vanga. She greeted them, saying she knew who they were and why they had come. She told them that millennia ago, people came by water to Strandzha from Egypt, tall and slender, with dark skin and long black hair, wearing masks. There was a grave of a woman holding a staff made of extraterrestrial material. There were immense riches at the site, gold books, many weapons, secret knowledge about human history. Those who came from Egypt also carried a sarcophagus, inside which was inscribed secret knowledge about the history of humanity. 2 millennia into the past and 2 millennia into the future. But the writing in the sarcophagus could not be deciphered. "Vanga! The place is sacred! Do not meddle!" According to Vanga, the time for this had not yet come, although the symbols contained very important knowledge. The items were buried in 6 places by slaves who were later killed. The place is sacred, she clarified. Vanga warned those from Sofia that what they were undertaking was beyond their power. The peace must not be disturbed. One must not tamper, she said. Nevertheless, she directed them to search in the area of Gradishte near Malko Tarnovo. There you will wait for the sun and the moon to show you where to search. she advised, telling them to stand facing the western rock wall between April 10 and 12. The expedition, 5 people were sent from Sofia to find the tomb. The expedition progressed at an unprecedented pace, though under great secrecy. The workers involved were transported by buses with covered windows so they would not know where they were going. Security measures were extremely strict, as the area was a heavily guarded zone due to the nearby border with Turkey. To prevent leaks, even military personnel and border guards were not allowed access to the site. State security officers also took part. The group needed excavation equipment, a mining specialist, and military permission for access to the border zone. Therefore, through a representative, the archaeologists sought assistance from Ilya Petkov, then First Secretary of the District Committee of the Communist Party in Malko Tarnovo. Excavation of the tomb. He was among the initiated. The expedition also included Vanga's niece Krasimira Stoyanova as an intermediary, as well as a professional archaeologist who would later become director of the National Historical Museum. Around the clock hard labor was carried out, and although few knew what was actually being sought, within 6 months a large part of the tomb had been excavated. However, on July 21, 1981, at just 38 years old, Lyudmila Zhivkova died. With her premature death, the excavations were halted. State leader Todor Zhivkov ordered the work stopped and the site sealed. It is claimed that all participants later died. One theory is that they reached uranium at depth, which is radioactive. Another version is that their lives were taken violently. According to Grigor Popov, many are still alive, but all documentation and findings remain classified. What is the tomb like? The tomb is built as a mirror image of the constellation Cepheus. When it stands above the mountain, the moon is in such phases that it can illuminate the site. This is written by Krastyo Mutavchev, based on the mysterious map he calls the Rebus. He sees on the map a projection of the tomb and coded images of a woman's body with a cat's head, just as Bastet is depicted. From this, he concludes that only the body lies in the tomb, while her soul is somewhere within the constellation Cepheus. Funeral ceremonies, ancient funeral ceremonies were lavish, and Bastet's was no exception. Vanga said there was much gold in lumps, meaning raw gold or highly valuable metal, ancient weapons, books, and other treasures. She emphasized the sarcophagus, carved inside and out with symbols describing what was before, during, and after her rule. Mutavchev also described reaching a niche from which several passages branched out, each with a carved symbol: a dog, an eagle, the 4 directions, and a sarcophagus. Samples were reportedly taken from a device that functioned on an energy level to emit light and indicate direction. This cannot be confirmed or denied. In ancient times, Peoples like the Thracians were skilled in mining. They dug deep underground and had methods of illumination without torches to avoid gas explosions. Whether the expedition discovered such a device or something else cannot be confirmed. All findings were sent to Sofia for study, but the results remain secret to this day. The ancient map, it is unclear how the treasure hunter obtained the map. According to Popov, no map survived 3,000 years. Multiple copies were always made, readable only by the initiated. The Thracians had no writing system. Everything was represented through symbols understood mainly by high priests. Vanga advised searching for Bastet symbols of power. Her scepter and staff, said to be made of extraterrestrial material. I believe she meant meteorite fragments, says Popov, noting that such materials may have been worked in the past. Egyptian scientists have proven that a black pharaonic dagger was made from meteorite fragments. However, he adds, I have never witnessed anything supernatural in these places, but those drawn to the mystery believe otherwise. They are convinced of the site's mystical energy and perform rituals there, often bringing cat figurines in honor of the cult of Bastet.